false air. No, it's not the big shaft seal, first of all. That is the 9th possible reason. Check the 8 other ones first. False air guide. This time at a new engine on the workbench. But, you know, first of all, cheers. How's it going, guys? Keep it up out there in these weird times. A guide I wanted to make for a long time is false air. If your engine suffers from false air symptoms, there are actually 7 things you should check first before you follow the most common online tip. Yeah, shaft seal, you have to open the engine. I just dropped whatever, you didn't see. So, very first thing to check is the carburetor setting right, correct? This means, do you have the correct main jet? But keep in mind, main jet hits in, of course, all over the band, but with the SI carburetor, it is the idle jet. So is the idle jet correct? And most important thing of all, check the setting of the mixture screw. Mixture screw. This is the mixture screw. Setup from here. In is leaner, out is richer. Reason number 1, wrong carb setting. Reason number 2, fuel supply. Of course, you cannot set the carburetor if you don't have enough fuel. You can play forever with the carb setting if the fuel is not enough. So, make sure you have a fast flow tap, you have a proper hose that cannot buckle. Just check my fuel supply guide. It's very simple, and of course you also need this 2.5 millimeter drill exactly under this jet stock at the bottom. Connection between the fuel chamber and the main jet stock. Reason number 2, too little fuel. Third reason, the casing of the carburetor. There is one screw that is connecting the casing to the engine case. You have to make sure that this screw is tight, and you remove the carburetor for this, and then you just wiggle around with the casing. If it's loose or not, it has to be tight. Otherwise, we have down here between the casing and the engine case. Wait, I'm going to show it from the other side. Third reason for false air symptoms is that the casing is loose. This is connected to the engine case with one screw. Additionally, we then have the two carburetor screws, but also the first screw has to be tight. So we just remove the carburetor and check if the casing is wiggling or not, if it is tight. It has to be tight. That's the third reason. Loose carburetor case. The fourth reason, kind of in connection with number 3 with the loose casing, is that the surface of this casing has to be flat. The same applies to the carburetor. The carburetor has to be flat. And you just take casing and carburetor and you put it on sandpaper on a flat surface, and you just sandpaper it. You just take the carburetor, twist it as long as you have even marks at the bottom. You do exactly the same with the casing. That was reason number 4. Now, next. What's coming next? What's your guess? The next reason for false air symptoms is, this is number 5. It is the cylinder head here. If the cylinder head is not even, then it will not be tight. Best thing is to have a seal, a rubber seal, but the rubber seal is not actually needed. You just, every time you mount the cylinder head, before you mount it, you just take sandpaper on a flat surface and you do sandpaper the cylinder head, the area where it sits on the cylinder. This is reason number 5. And guess what? Reason number 6 is, of course, the cylinder foot. So the connection between the cylinder and the engine case. The cylinder also has to be even. It is always even. The case has to be even. Check when you put the engine case halves together that there is no edge, that they have the same height. And in case that you did some milling work and you needed to cold weld or to weld or whatever, epoxy glue, the transfer ports, because you broke through, that the epoxy is still tight. And also if it got too narrow here, you milled too much, and this is just 1 millimeter, Often here is some false air sucking, which is causing the symptoms. What can you do? Use epoxy, works quite well, or just use sealing mass and put an additional Batzen, you say in German. What is it in English? I don't know. Just put a lot of sealing mass here. Doesn't cost anything, but it will help that everything is gonna be tight. That was reason number 6. Did I say cheers already? I did now. Reason number 7. If you were case porting to the new bigger cylinder ports, then often you break through or it gets too thin, you add some epoxy or some welding or cold welding, and often this stuff gets loose after some time. So this means also check if when you glued something, when you used epoxy, that this is still tight and did not start to leak. You see that because it gets black, you have oil and few rests there. That was number 7. And now, guess what? Reason number 8 is, yes, now we are getting there. We are talking about shaft seals. So reason number 8 is a stator shaft seal. And the final reason number 9 is the clutch side shaft seal. How does this look like? I got a crank here and the seals. So, can you see that? Yes. Yes. So, crank sits like this. You have on this side the stator. The spring is always towards the crank. So this sits here. First of all, check if there are dirt marks from rest of oil and fuel, and then replace the stator shaft seal. This is quite easy. Just take a screwdriver and work it out all around. Be patient, it really comes off easily. And then you put the new one on, put some grease on it, and then gently knock it in. That is number 8, the stator shaft seal. And the other one, the 9th reason, check, really check first the 8th one. Most of it, it's just false air from the other 7, 8 reasons. The spring is always towards the crankshaft. For exchanging the clutch seal, of course, you have to open the engine and take out the crankshaft. If you do that, come on, invest these few bucks. Make everything new. Check the distance, the tolerance of the gears, a new cruciform, all the new bearings, because then it's done. And you will not have any troubles for many kilometers. So, number 8. Stator shaft seal. Number 9. The very first tip online on the web is just number 9. Shaft seal clutch side. Guys, hope this helps. If you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe. Cheers. Have a good one.
Biest!
Sorry. Ja.
Bist du deppert, ist das ein Biest jetzt?
There is one guide I am planning for quite some time, because there is so much wrong information out. It is a guide about false air. So if the engine sucks air where it should not suck air. It is when you close the throttle and the engine howls. It revs even though you do not pull the throttle. That's called false air. So it is somewhere it is not tight. And the very first information you get online, everywhere, everybody says, yeah, shaft seal, you have to open the engine and you have to redo it. Most of the time this is wrong. There are several other reasons, 8, that can cause false air, and that's what I want to show you, because there is not always needed to open the engine. And the first tip is, yeah, open the engine, replace the shaft seal. No guys, that's wrong. There are way more other reasons you have to check first, and mostly it's one of them, and it is not the shaft seal. So, cheers. Let's start with the first one. The first one is too little fuel. If you have a problem with the fuel tap, then the carburetor does not get enough fuel, and when it is starving from fuel, then it will also rev and howl. That's number 1. Number 2, carburetor. That's an SE carburetor. The small one here is the idle jet. The idle jet is not just a jet. You can adjust the idle jet channel. It goes here, here, here. You adjust that with the mixture screw. So you, oops. So you do not exchange jet by jet and see how it works. You choose one jet and then you turn the mixture screw and see how the engine reacts to set it with a screw. So if this idle jet is too lean, check out my other sound check idle jet guide. If it's too lean, the then the engine will also howl and fake false air symptoms. So what's the next one? I wrote a list. Yes. This sits on the engine case. That's the casing of the SC carburetor, and the carburetor is in there. So if this case is loose, it has to sit very tight on the engine case. If it's loose, it can suck false air at the bottom. So that was reason 3. Then another reason could be, especially if you have dynamic false air, I call it. It is when it is not static, not always the same. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's not. Depends on the engine, if it's warm or cold. Sometimes they ankle these carburetors. So put them on a flat surface and sandpaper them. And according to the sandpaper marks, you see when it is even again. That was number 4. What is number 5? Number 5 is a classic. Cylinder head. Mostly it's forgotten. Every time you mount the cylinder head, you should sandpaper this area here, the sealing surface. Put it on a flat area and push it, shove it, left, right, twist it, as long as you then get proper striping marks here. It is the classic false air at the head. It also often causes sizing. You see here it is leaking. That is the dirt. Tight head is not leaking nowhere. It's a classic for original engines. And even if you buy new cylinder heads, and even if you buy new cylinder kits, if they do not have this seal ring, I also sandpapered the heads with the seal ring. They are not tight. You have to sandpaper all of them. This was reason number 5. What's the next one? We have the other part of the cylinder head. Yes, the cylinder itself. Oh, cast iron heavy. So we have here the cylinder head. You see the dirt. It was not tight, and it can also be not tight and suck false air at the cylinder foot. You see also here it was not tight. There is dirt all around. Was a little bit leaking. Did not suck false air, but it pressed out a little bit of this black stuff. That was reason number 6. Another issue is if you, especially with a 125 case on this side, this spot here, at this spot they saved a lot of cast iron material, so there's a big hole. If you now, I'll show you later on because this is going to be a VMC 177, if you now adjust the port, if you now adjust the case, the engine case to the cylinder ports, you need to remove quite a big part from here, and you always break through here. That's totally normal. You don't have to be scared of that. You need to weld it or to cold weld it, or you can use epoxy. And when you, for instance, forget to heat up the engine case before so that it sweats out all the oil, you do that with a torch lamp. Make it really hot that it sweats everything out. If you forget that, then this cold metal will fall out. This is pretty brutal false air because that's a big hole. So when it really howls loud and a lot, once of a sudden, I mean it starts slowly and then it falls out, then check the engine if it has cold metal spots, and they can be renewed. You do not have to take the engine out and disassemble it. You just pull the cylinder and then you clean it, etc. and so on. It is doable just to do it here while the engine is still inside. The next one is a shaft seal, but not the inner one. Clutch side, this is clutch side, this is starter side, not the one, the big one, big clutch bearing on the clutch side, the small one at the starter here. And if this one is damaged, then it leaks oil. You see dirt all around it, and it can easily be removed from the outside. You just take a little screwdriver, be careful, do not use force, and you get it out, and then you can push in the new one. And then number 9, yes it is, wait, I'll show you. Possible reason number 9, after all the other ones are did not cause the false air, it is the shaft seal, but not the shaft seal, the big one, it's the small one, you know. Crank sits here, clutch, starter. On the crank stump here sits the small shaft seal. If it is not tight, then you have dirt around. It leaks a little bit of oil. You can remove it with a small screwdriver, that's no problem. Just be careful, and you can remove it with a small screwdriver, smaller one than this. You just pull it out here and you push here, etc. and so on till you get it out, and then you can replace it. If you replace it, just put grease on it because there's an edge, not that the spring jumps out. And then the very last reason is the big shaft seal. It's not number 1 you check. You check all of the other possible reasons first. It sits here on the crank stump. Swoop. That's the reason why I often see here stripe marks. And yes, for this one you have to open the engine and disassemble everything. That is true. But That is reason number 9. You have to check 8 possible reasons before that. These are the 2 shaft seals I use. It's Corteco. If you have a seat with the groove, it's the rubber one. If there is no groove, it's the metal one. But shorten this edge here for 0.5 millimeter. So, false air. No, it's not the big shaft seal, first of all. That is the last. That is kind of the 9th possible reason. Check the 8 other ones first. I'm gonna show you the order, the 9 reasons of false air when everything is done here, so to get the better feeling and to have the whole picture. Cheers.